Discover the touching moment. A lonely CEO and an amazing little girl rewrite their lives forever. Marcus Langston peered through the unyielding glass walls of his office, the San Francisco skyline shimmering outside like a distant memory of freedom. At 45, he had become an unrelenting titan in the tech industry, celebrating rising stock prices while feeling increasingly adrift in a sea of financial reports. Numbers were his companions, yet they left him empty, a mere echo of the drive that once ignited his spirit. Rather than a creative sanctuary, his office felt more like a gilded cage, and every interaction felt stilted, like being surrounded by shadows dancing to a corporate tune he no longer desired to hear. By Friday afternoon, weariness seeped into his bones as he watched the relentless hum of his team. They moved with robotic precision, eyes glued to screens, minds lost in work. Was this all he had to show for his relentless ambition? Seeking respite, he snuck out of the corporate fortress and ventured into the nearby park, craving a brief escape from the oppressive vault of glass and steel that defined his existence. In that park, he encountered Emma, an 8-year-old girl selling lemonade for $1, her laughter spilling like the bright sun overhead. "You gotta try it. It's for art," she chirped, her words fresh as the summer breeze. For a moment, the weight of his world lightened, the sweet smell of childhood flooding him. He bought a cup, and as he sipped the tangy drink, visions of carefree summers danced in his mind, blissful days he thought he had outgrown, blissful days that now felt far, far away. Their shared moments became a weekly ritual. Over lemonade, Marcus imparted nebulous lessons about ambition, while Emma painted vibrant dreams of creativity that erupted from her innocent heart. It was a peculiar friendship, where laughter cascaded through his sterile routines, illuminating corners of his life that had long been dulled by the pressure of status and success. Each encounter dissolved layers of corporate ambition, revealing a warmth he believed had vanished. Then came that day his heart lurched as he witnessed a teacher dismiss Emma's artistic enthusiasm, laughter morphing into mockery. Heat coursed through Marcus' veins, igniting memories of his childhood fights against ignorance, battles fought not alone but surrounded by familial support. Emma's spirit dimmed under that cruelty, and he felt rage clenching his gut. It was deeper than dismay, it was visceral, awakening feelings he locked away beneath spreadsheets, feelings he thought were irrelevant as he navigated the relentless world of profit margins. No. Not this. You can't treat kids like that. Marcus' mind raced with uncertainty. Why did he care so much? Wasn't he just a CEO in the tech industry, lost in a world far removed from the innocence of a child? Could he break away from the very ideals that had shaped his life? The clock ticked louder, a grim reminder that he was both a mentor and a long-forgotten dreamer. As that question loomed, the terrifying thought of stepping into unfamiliar territory, Marcus knew deep down he was unprepared for what lay ahead. The stakes were now personal, and as their laughter faded, shadows crept back into his thoughts. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Marcus stood at an emotional precipice. Fear tethered him, yet he saw a path ahead, one that could reshape not just Emma's world but his as well. Torn between the weight of ambition and the allure of rediscovery, he grappled with the realization that confronting the inequalities Emma faced would mean redefining his values. Could he summon the courage to break free from the steel chains of corporate culture that had once defined his life? The question engraved itself deeper as his heart raced. In that moment, he faced not just a child's struggles, but the shadowy reflections of his own decisions, and it terrified him. Marcus found himself pacing the marble floor of his office as doubts crashed over him like a tidal wave. The day had begun like any other, yet something had shifted. He recalled Emma's hopeful glimmer as she spoke about her art, the fear snaking around his heart tightening with every recollection of her dimmed spirit. Could he really confront the teacher? The very idea felt like stepping into a lion's den, yet the thought of Emma bearing the brunt of ridicule ignited a fire within him, a sensation long buried under years of corporate apathy. He glanced at the glass wall, the city just a blur through his suddenly clouded vision. Success had been his armor for so long, but now it felt more like a prison. He could almost hear Emma's laughter contrasting painfully with the sterile silence surrounding him. In a moment of impulsivity, Marcus grabbed his coat and headed to the park, a desperate inkling leading him. When he arrived, he saw Emma sitting somberly on a bench. The small cooler filled with lemonade lay unnoticed beside her. Approaching cautiously, he noticed the art supplies scattered around. A pastel drawing of a vibrant landscape caught his eye, the colors rich with imagination. "Hey, Emma," he said softly, taking a seat next to her. Her eyes shifted to him, immediately brightening, yet there was a flicker of uncertainty. "Hi, Mr. Langston," she replied, the excited chirp dimmed into a whisper, tainted by her earlier experience. Taking a deep breath, Marcus sat up straighter. "I saw your drawing. It's beautiful," he started, hoping to bridge the distance that yesterday's mockery had carved. "It really captures well, Joy. The colors show how you see the world." Emma fiddled with her fingers, peeking at him from beneath her lashes. "But I don't know if it's good enough. The teacher thinks I should paint like everyone else." A surge of anger pulsed through Marcus at the thought of Emma conforming to mundane standards. "Your art is good enough just the way it is," he insisted. "It's what makes you unique. Have you spoken to your teacher about it?" She shrugged, her gaze now locked on the ground. "If I try, it'll just get worse. Why bother?" That question echoed in his mind, sounding very much like the doubts he battled every day. Marcus sighed deeply, the weight of revelation cementing itself within him. Could he allow this young girl, so full of potential, to surrender to fear? He had spent his life fostering ambition and success, yet here was a child whose dreams could be crushed before they had a chance to bloom. "Emma," he said, drawing her attention back to him, "let's take a stand together. How about we talk to your teacher tomorrow?" Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You would do that? For me? Why not?" he replied, feeling a surprising conviction swell in his chest. "It's time to confront an outdated view. You deserve the chance to express yourself freely, and I'll back you up." The spark of possibility was evident in her expression, and Marcus felt an unfamiliar rush. This wasn't just about Emma anymore, it was a challenge to his own barriers. The past shadowed him, whispering that the corporate ladder's rungs were meant to be climbed alone, but could camaraderie lead to an ascent far more meaningful? "All right, I'll try," Emma finally mumbled, determination creeping into her voice. They sat quietly for a moment, the weight of the impending challenge hanging in the air. Marcus's mind was ablaze with anticipation. What if this could reshape not just Emma's trajectory but his own? For the first time in years, the path before him sparkled with potential, the shadows retreating in light of resolution. As they prepared to leave the park, a flicker of fear intermingled with excitement surged within him. Tomorrow would be pivotal not just for Emma's dreams, but for the rebirth of his own purpose. The moment was almost electrifying, yet deep down, he felt an ominous realization settling. This confrontation was just the beginning, and the challenges that lay ahead would test the very foundation of who he had become. Marcus clenched his fists. Determined. What if Emma's art was only the first step? What awaited him in the confrontation that loomed on the horizon? Tomorrow, he would find out. The dawn broke with a hesitant brightness, casting soft rays through the window of Marcus's modest apartment. He awoke with an unusual sense of urgency, his resolve solidified overnight like concrete. Unsure of what lay ahead, he mentally rehearsed the conversation with Emma's teacher. After years of navigating the corporate world, he felt unarmed for this new expedition that transcended business suits and boardroom jargon. As he sipped his coffee, a familiar anxiety gnawed at his gut, pulling him back to the safety of his corporate persona. Would he be able to advocate for Emma? The stakes felt infinitely higher than any quarterly report, a revelation that both thrilled and terrified him. The hours ticked away far too quickly, and soon he found himself pacing again, but this time it was the hallway of the school. The freshly painted walls and echoing laughter of children seemed foreign yet inviting. Each step toward Emma's classroom felt like stepping into the unknown, a contrast to the predictable confines of his office. He spotted Emma in the art room, her concentrated expression beautified by the vibrant splashes of paint and the scattered drawings on the walls. She was a beacon of creativity, yet he could still see the flicker of doubt behind her focused gaze. Before he entered, Marcus took a moment to gather his thoughts, mentally affirming that he was here not just for her but for himself. This was his chance to embrace a risk he had long avoided. With each word of encouragement he had shared the day before resonating in his mind, he stepped through the door. Emma looked up, surprise washing over her face. A sense of pride surged through him. The child had brightened, if only slightly, at the sight of him. "We're going to talk to your teacher together," he said, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. Her eyes sparkled but fear lingered there too. "You really mean it?" "Absolutely," he reassured. "Let us show her what real art looks like." As they approached the teacher's desk, Marcus felt a pang of doubt. What if he miscalculated? What if he was met with resistance? Discomfort prickled at the back of his mind, but he shoved it aside, intent on staying focused. "Miss Randall, can we have a moment to discuss Emma's artwork?" he asked, his voice firm but respectful. The teacher looked up, clearly taken aback. "Mr. Langston, this is unexpected. I appreciate your concern, but you must understand that we have standards." "Standards or conformity?" Marcus countered instinctively, surprising even himself. Emma's creativity shouldn't be stifled. Her art should be celebrated, not conform to fit a mold. As he spoke, Marcus felt the weight of his own corporate expectations peel away, revealing a genuine desire for change. Slowly, he became aware of the impact his words were having not just on Emma's future, but on his own worldview. Miss Randall's expression shifted from surprise to contemplation, her features softening. "Art has many forms," she admitted, albeit reluctantly. "Perhaps I could consider a broader approach." This was a breakthrough, but Marcus knew they could not stop there. He sought to empower Emma further, his mind racing with ideas on how to encourage her to embrace her talents. "And along with this new acceptance, I think we should showcase Emma's work in an exhibition. Can you imagine what she might achieve with that support?" Emma's jaw dropped, eyes wide in wonder. Art is about expression, and what better way to express that than having others see it? "Can we make this happen?" he pressed, feeling a surge of responsibility intertwine with hope. Miss Randall hesitated, perhaps debating the validity of the idea. But there it was, an opportunity, a moment in time when the scales tipped toward possibility. "Let us discuss it further," she finally agreed, a hint of reluctance wavering in her tone. Emma's exuberance was palpable, her smile contagious as she began imagining her work on display. In that moment, Marcus realized he was witnessing the transformation not just of a young artist but of himself. Fear dissipated. Leaving space for potential. As they walked out of the classroom, Emma radiated energy, her previous doubt evaporating in the warmth of his support. But while new aspirations took root in Emma's heart, an unsettling worry lingered in Marcus's mind. This confrontation had only opened a door. What other challenges would emerge as they moved forward? The stakes had been raised. The question remained, could he continue fighting for Emma's dreams while also discovering his own buried passions? Tomorrow, they would take the first steps toward making their dreams tangible, but the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. How far was Marcus willing to go for this newfound sense of purpose? Marcus awoke the next morning, the sun casting long shadows across his small apartment, a physical reflection of the weighty decisions before him. The exhilaration from yesterday's breakthrough began to settle into a more somber realization. He could no longer avoid the confrontation looming on the horizon, not just with Emma's teacher, but with the very essence of who he was becoming. While sipping his coffee, he shifted restlessly in his chair, envisioning the exhibition he had proposed. It sounded promising, but doubt crept in like a cold draft. Was he truly qualified to helm this venture? Could he, a corporate strategist molded in profit margins and presentations, pivot to become an advocate for artistic expression? Change often began with a single step, yet Marcus found himself paralyzed over the uncertainty of that step. He had only just started to peel back the layers of his old identity, and now he faced the daunting prospect of forging something entirely new. The future he contemplated with Emma was thrilling yet dangerous, calling into question his ability to juggle both their aspirations. That he decided to visit the local art gallery that afternoon, a place buzzing with creativity. He needed to immerse himself in the environment he hoped to foster for Emma. Walking through the gallery, he allowed the vivid colors and intricate forms to envelop him. A vibrant painting of a city skyline flickered with life, while sculptures seemed to dance off the walls. This was the world he wanted for Emma, a realm where self-expression reigned supreme. But as he stood before a particularly abstract piece, a sense of inadequacy surged within him. Just as the gallery featured artists who painted with passion, what did he, Marcus Langston, have to offer? He gazed up at the label next to the painting, a reminder of the artist's journey, struggles, failures, triumphs. Each story made palpable the challenges inherent in the pursuit of art. It dawned on him that creativity thrived on vulnerability, on taking risks and allowing oneself to be seen. Flaws and all, his anxiety began to morph into determination. What if he treated the upcoming exhibition not merely as a showcase for Emma, but also as a canvas for his own rediscovery? He had spent years cultivating his corporate persona, steering through meetings, analyzing data, cementing his status. Now, exploring this unfamiliar terrain called parent might grant him insights he had never perceived before. With a newfound sense of purpose, Marcus pulled out his phone. He began crafting an email to Miss Randall. "We need a planning meeting," he wrote. "Let us discuss how we can make this exhibition an enriching experience for Emma and her classmates." He hit send, a wave of relief washing over him, but the anxiety resumed its grip as he thought of confronting potential obstacles. What if the exhibition fell flat? What if he failed to channel the passion he had witnessed in the gallery? Yet amidst those doubts, he cultivated a resolve. This was Emma's chance to spread her wings, and he would not falter. Returning home, he made a plan, scripting how he might engage that captivated spirit of creativity in others, what words he might use to encourage Emma and the other budding artists. The moments moved like strokes of paint on a canvas, each decision carefully plotted but full of the chaotic beauty of uncertainty. He longed to ignite the potential not only in Emma's art but also in his own dormant aspirations. As dusk approached, he felt a seismic shift within himself, the flicker of ambition curving into a flame of action. Yet, there remained a distinct edge of unease. The real test was still ahead, and Marcus knew that diving deeper into this world opened not just his own heart, but also confronted the ghosts from his corporate past. He was rediscovering himself, but who would he become amidst this journey? The real challenge had yet to manifest. How would he navigate his growing attachment to this calling, and would his corporate instincts prove to be a liability in this new, vulnerable pursuit? Emma's destiny intertwined with his, and soon, the moment would arrive to confront his deep-seated fears of failure and limitations when he would have to face a critic who challenged more than just the art. Would he seize this opportunity, or would he retreat to the safe shadows of his past? Marcus paced in his apartment, his thoughts swirling like the paint on the canvases he had admired. The air felt thick with the promise of change, yet anxiety tugged at him. The email to Miss Randall had stirred something in him, a mix of commitment and fear. He was no longer merely a spectator in Emma's educational journey, he had taken on a role that demanded more than passive involvement. His corporate instincts screamed to analyze the situation, to strategize. What was the layout of this exhibition? How could he measure success? But this wasn't a profit-driven venture. It required more empathy and intuition than he had ever exercised in boardrooms. Iterating ideas in spreadsheets felt childish now, reduced to a simple equation of what could be gained. But what was the intrinsic value of nurturing creativity? A solitary truth emerged: success in art wasn't an equation but an odyssey marked by the journey itself. That weekend, Marcus immersed himself in research, diving into texts about art education, creativity, and the psychology of childhood development. The deeper he delved, the more he uncovered about himself. The data-driven, risk-averse strategist began to unveil layers of emotional intelligence long set aside, buried beneath years of corporate armor. Each late night spent flipping through pages or sending messages to local artists became a moment of rediscovery. He fashioned a new strategy that allowed him to embrace uncertainty rather than evade it. He wrote down a mantra: seek joy in connection, taping it to his fridge as a reminder that this wasn't merely for Emma but for himself as well. Here was a chance to build connections, to breathe life into aspirations he had sidelined for practicality. As the days turned into nights leading up to the meeting with Miss Randall and Emma's classmates, something began to shift in his consciousness. He envisioned an interactive exhibition, not merely a show of art pieces. It would be a dynamic space, a melting pot of creativity where children could express themselves, learn from one another, and embrace mistakes as part of their journey. Visualizing the potential transformed his uneasy energy into a fervent drive. He wanted to create workshops, inviting local artists to mentor Emma and her friends. He imagined themselves gathering around easels, laughter mingling with paint, as they explored mediums that echoed their emotions rather than the cold metrics of his corporate past. But as excitement thrummed through him, so did newfound fears. What if the artists he reached out to declined? What if he couldn't facilitate the kind of environment he envisioned? Would he disappoint Emma? Would he fail her at this juncture when she needed him most? The day of the meeting finally arrived, filling him with trepidation. Miss Randall welcomed him with a warm smile, but he noticed the way her brow furrowed as he laid out his ambitious plans. Her hesitance mirrored the unease crackling within him. With every suggestion he made, it became evident that they were not merely collaborating on an exhibition. He was also confronting his own fears and biases about art and education, years of resistance to vulnerability inching closer to the surface. Marcus, Miss Randall said, her voice calm yet firm, this is ambitious. I admire your passion, but we need to consider the dynamics of the children. Not every child can thrive under the same structure. Some may struggle to express themselves openly. Her words hit him with the force of reality. He had charted a path based on hope without truly calibrating it against the unique needs of each child. Was he imposing his vision without understanding theirs? Suddenly, there was clarity. The exhibition could not merely be his creation, it had to be a platform for the children's voices, their stories, needs, and interests. In that moment, he realized he might step entirely out of the picture, relinquishing control in favor of something larger than himself. As his mind raced with adjustments and possibilities, he could feel the weight of his aspirations morphing into excitement. The moment hung precariously, the exhilarating thrill of his evolution sparking against the fear of failure. But it was then that Marcus understood perhaps being an advocate meant learning to be a listener as much as a leader. Holding on to that insight, he looked at Miss Randall and quietly acknowledged, I need to learn from them first before I can guide them. But before the momentum could build, an unexpected text pinged on his phone, the gallery owner requesting a last-minute meeting. What awaited him there could redefine everything once again. Would it present another opportunity for growth, or challenge him in ways he hadn't prepared for? A wave of anticipation surged as he gathered his thoughts to see how this could shift the course of his journey. Marcus sank into the couch, letting the weight of his thoughts linger. The text about the last-minute meeting felt like an unexpected thunderclap, pulling him from his nascent vision and plunging him back into the world he thought he had outgrown. The gallery owner had been pivotal to his earlier successes, funneling him detailed reports about trends and sales. He thought he was prepared, he thought he was ready to emerge into a space where he knew how to thrive. But this felt different. He glanced at the clock and promptly left his apartment, tapping the screen of his phone to refresh the gallery's location. The path was familiar, yet today it felt as though he were walking into another realm entirely. With each step, he transitioned from an aspiring nurturer of creativity to a corporate figure shrouded in self-doubt. Anxiety crept back in like a long-lost friend, whispering reminders of his former self, cool, composed, yet emotionally detached. The gallery, the atmosphere buzzed with urgency. The owner, Carolyn, was a whirlwind, juggling numerous projects while keeping the artistic vision of the space intact. As she turned to greet him, a fresh smile lit her face, but her eyes quickly fell into seriousness. Marcus, thank you for coming on such short notice, she began. I need to talk about the new potential partnership we discussed last month. There's been a shift. The weight of her words bore down on him. What kind of shift? Some of our longtime sponsors want to pull funding if we don't align more closely with market trends, she revealed, her voice steady. They want measurable outcomes. They're anxious. He could feel the panic seep into the edges of his confidence. It was as if the corporate world had reached out, not to him, but to reclaim him. Did it matter that he was trying to pave a new path infused with creativity and inspiration? Did those ambitions hold any weight in a format that craved quantifiable success? Mark my words, Marcus. Carolyn leaned in, assessing him closely. The gallery is a business. We can't just create a platform for creativity without a plan that garners profits. Artists thrive on opportunities, but so do we. He recognized the truth in her words. They rang painfully, crashing against the principles he wanted to uphold for Emma and her classmates. Would he be slowly walking back into the very cage he wanted to escape? In this moment, he was teetering at the precipice, caught between a world where emotions were marginalized for the sake of profit and a future that shimmered with possibility. You may have a valid point, he admitted hesitantly. But the clarity he had felt earlier, how could he let go of that? What if the value of what we create is measured in more than just profit margins? What if we can let the children's voices resonate and still build something sustainable? Carolyn crossed her arms, regarding him with an intensity that unsettled him. Are you willing to sell them on that vision? To show them they can thrive here? We both know they want tangible results, dude. This isn't entirely about emotional benefits. Deep down, he knew she was right. But what he didn't know was how to balance that with his newfound aspirations, the vibrant life he envisioned for those kids. Let's set aside the emotional narrative for now, she suggested. Do you think you can convince the board, pitch a sustainable art program designed to align with market needs? It could help both them and your kids. Beneath his discomfort surged determination, a flicker of his corporate self reassembling like a puzzle he was learning to reimagine. He couldn't lose sight of the passion that was fueling him, but he also needed to format that vision to resonate with factors outside of pure sentiment. But as he prepared himself to negotiate, to navigate through this ethical quagmire, a question slithered into his mind: would he be compromising his integrity for success? Would these tweaks define him? He took a deep breath, grounding himself. This could be the moment that determined his evolution. However, he sensed something. Stirring a deeper reckoning with himself, an impending decision that felt heavier than the last day's conversations deepened and strategies flowed around him. He wondered if he could truly allow the journey of Emma and her classmates to converge with the demands of a business model that felt antithetical to everything he was becoming. Just then, Carolyn's phone buzzed, and her face fell. "We've got an emergency meeting called," she stated quickly. "But Marcus, I need your answer. Can you be one of the advocates to make this happen, or will you step back?" The stark dichotomy pressed against him. His eyes darted from Carolyn's gaze at the door, and it hit him the moment of truth loomed. Would he choose the measured success the gallery demanded or take a leap into uncharted territory for something deeper? A conflict charged through him, setting the stage for a defining moment in his creative journey. The decision awaited, one that could either fracture his emerging identity or solidify it. Could he truly blend both worlds without losing himself in the process? Marcus stepped onto the busy city street, his heart racing with the weight of Carolyn's ultimatum still echoing in his mind. The sky above was an opaque gray, mirroring the tempest of thoughts that swirled within him. He had dedicated countless hours cultivating a vision that championed creativity, but that vision now stood in juxtaposition to the practical demands of a corporate landscape. Taking a deep breath, he found solace in the rhythm of his feet against the pavement. Yet the clarity he had felt before was now obscured by uncertainty. For the last months, he had embraced the role of a mentor for Emma and her classmates, stirring in them the hope to create art that spoke to their experiences. Now, in the face of stark business realities, he questioned whether he only championed a fleeting ideal. If he had to choose between embedding his vision in a market-driven approach or succumbing to the suffocating conventions of profit, what would he decide? As he walked, he began to devise a framework, a tentative plan on how to present his pitch to the board. Art could be layered into fiscal formulas, he mused. He imagined creating a program that tracked the performance of students, celebrating their growth while illustrating measurable outcomes. It could indeed be both educational and profitable, an intersection between nurturing creativity and satisfying corporate demands. But even as he considered this, doubts wormed their way in. Was he unintentionally silencing the very voices he had fought so hard to elevate? With each step, he moved through the bustling streets, searching for clarity amid the chaos. His mind flickered back to Emma, her bright eyes and unwavering passion for art, untainted by the inherent detours of adulthood. She represented everything he aspired to protect: innocence, creativity, and the unadulterated joy of expression. No corporate framework could measure that essence. Feeling the pull of realization, Marcus paused at a corner, eyeing a street artist painting vibrant murals on the brick wall nearby. People stopped to watch, captivated by the colors swirling into life. The artist, wrapped in the joyous expressions of onlookers, seemed to thrive in a state unnoticed by profits or demands. A sudden clarity gripped Marcus. It wasn't solely about modification strategies, it was about creating a space that allowed him to cultivate that very authenticity. As he moved forward, he transitioned from a reactionary mindset to one driven by conviction. He could carve out new narratives, using the framework of the gallery to elevate the stories of young artists without sacrificing artistic integrity. His fingers itched to design workshops that focused on skill building while integrating the values he stood for. Perhaps Carolyn's corporate trends could play a role, but only if he positioned them alongside profound artistic purpose. But self-doubt lurked, whispering of risks. What if the board dismisses his ideas? Carolyn seemed convinced of their need for profits, their cravings for reliability over risk. Could he stand up against that tide? Stepping back to recalibrate, he recognized the evolution unfurling within him. A fire kindled in his spirit as he realized this could be a pivotal moment, not merely a struggle to convince others, but an opportunity to embody the essence of his journey. What if he could present a hybrid model that piqued Carolyn's interest while still rooting for Emma and her classmates? By reframing the narrative, he could advocate for a sustainable connection between artistic expression and business pragmatism. That he picked up his pace, heading toward the gallery filled with renewed purpose. As he approached the entrance, he resolved to pitch the idea of intertwining art performance metrics with a foundation of artistic integrity. The board might see the dual benefit: a measurable success intertwined with the transformative power of art. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, voices intertwined with a sense of urgency. As Carolyn re-entered the room, ready to tackle the challenges ahead, Marcus raised his hand slightly. This was his moment. "Wait, Carolyn. I think I have something to share," he called out, his voice steady despite the undercurrent of adrenaline surging through him. The room quieted, eyes turning to him with curiosity. Marcus smiled, his mind melding into focus, but before he could reveal his proposal, Carolyn's phone buzzed again, and the tension in the room shifted dramatically. The unexpected call bore news that could drastically alter their trajectory. Marcus swallowed hard. What new revelation could disrupt his moment of potential transformation? Each heartbeat resonated with the possibility of change. His path could oscillate based on this pivotal turn. Marcus tightened his grip on the edge of the table, his palms damp, heart thrumming in a precarious rhythm as Carolyn listened intently to the voice on the other end of the line. Each syllable he heard, muffled by the distance, seemed to echo his own imminent fears and aspirations. Uncertainty wrapped around him, a choking reminder of the fragile state he found himself in. Was this unforeseen revelation going to shatter his carefully constructed vision? He could sense the jeers of doubt creeping back in. This looming moment, where he had hoped to offer a compelling vision to the board, now felt like a cliff from which he might tumble. Just as he prepared his pitch, one unexpected call could pivot the direction of everything he'd worked to forge. Thoughts swirled. Was he ready to chart a new course if it meant standing at odds with both Carolyn and the corporate dogma they had to navigate? The room, a concoction of cool, professional airs and electric tension, felt suddenly stifling. Marcus took a step back, inwardly searching. This was the very crucible he had envisioned, yet it held the essence of fear as well. Could he truly balance the competing forces of art and commerce? He reflected on the young artists, like Emma, whose fiery passions mirrored the creativity that flowed through him. What was the point of achieving his professional dreams if it meant allowing those flames to flicker and dim? As Carolyn hung up and turned her attention to the board members, Marcus resolved to seize this moment. The edges of his vision sharpened. He wasn't just presenting an idea. He was representing a philosophy, a potential revolution within a gallery that could change how art was perceived in the corporate space. Fueled by a renewed sense of purpose, he composed himself, standing tall. "Thank you for your patience, everyone," he began, the confidence in his tone giving weight to his words. "Today, I want to propose a framework that intertwines artistic integrity with measurable impact," he said, watching as curiosity flickered in the eyes of the board members. "Imagine a system that not only tracks student performance but also elevates their unique stories, through which art can communicate their most profound experiences." He laid out a vision that felt electric to him, a dual-pronged approach that sought to highlight creativity while reinforcing fiscal responsibility. He spoke about the metrics he could develop to showcase progress, how this data could resonate with the financial interests of the company without sacrificing the very heart of what he was trying to protect. As he spoke, Marcus felt the adrenaline surge. The fire he had once imagined in Emma's eyes now ignited in his own. A cascade of ideas began to tumble forth, each more vivid than the last. He illustrated how workshops could be formulated that harnessed creativity while establishing benchmarks that would appeal to decision-makers. Yet, self-doubt clawed at him, raising critical questions. What if they only saw numbers and missed the emotion? What if Carolyn's focus on profits overshadowed the authenticity he strived to maintain? A collaboration between numbers and creativity, he articulated, doesn't mean we undermine the heart of art. Instead, think of it as evolving our approach while nurturing the artistic process. His voice wavered slightly, but he steadied himself. This wasn't solely about wins and losses, this was about creating a legacy that intertwines artistic expression with actionable insights. The silence that enveloped the room now shifted, he could feel an undercurrent of intrigued energy. Perhaps there was a way forward where both sets of values could coexist harmoniously. Just as he reached the climax of his pitch, Carolyn leaned forward, her face unreadable. "Marcus, you've raised some compelling points, but the question remains, can we afford to take this risk?" Marcus locked eyes with her, feeling the weight of their shared history, sensing the challenge before him. This was no longer about mere profits or viability, it was about redefining partnership in a way that embraced both the soul of the artists and the rationale of business. The clock on the wall ticked on, each second amplifying the silence as the board absorbed what he had laid before them. As he waited, heart racing with anticipation, he realized he was standing on the precipice of something transformative, a moment that could define more than just his career. It could reshape how art was valued within a corporate landscape. Then came the next wave of tension. The board's murmurs began, but before Marcus could decipher their reactions, Carolyn's phone buzzed anew. "Excuse me," she said, glancing at the screen before stepping out again. Was this another distraction? What unforeseen developments awaited just outside the room? With bated breath, Marcus stood still, the pulsating atmosphere heightening a sense of impending change. Every heartbeat seemed to echo with the question, was he ready to follow this new path, no matter where it might lead? The door closed with a quiet click, leaving Marcus standing in the charged air of uncertainty. He sensed the shifting tides of the boardroom, the murmurs, a cacophony of opinions battling for dominance. Each voice drifted toward him like echoes of doubt, threatening to pull him back into the churning waters of insecurity. What if his vision crumbled under scrutiny? What if they labeled him a dreamer, an idealist blinded by the allure of art? Marcus paced slightly, allowing the moment to crystallize around him. This was his arena, not merely a company conference room but a battleground for values, where art collided with commerce, and he had cast himself as the champion of a new narrative. The curious glances from the board members reminded him of the faces of the young artists he endeavored to uplift. He envisioned them staring back at him, vulnerable yet fierce in their pursuit of authenticity. That he pressed his palms against the cool surface of the table, grounding himself. Whatever Carolyn was dealing with outside, he could not let that uncertainty bleed into the room. This was pivotal, a moment where he could either ignite a revolution or retreat to the status quo. He would not surrender the flame of creativity to corporate expectations. Gathering his thoughts, he turned back to face the board. Art is not a luxury, he declared, lifting his chin. It's an integral aspect of the human experience and our growth as individuals and as a society. If we neglect that, we betray both the artists who inspire us and the audience's yearning for connection. He witnessed heads nodding, but skepticism lingered. True, we need metrics, Marcus continued, a fire igniting in his voice. But metrics shouldn't just evaluate numbers, they must also embrace the narratives that enrich those numbers. To truly innovate, we must revolutionize how we present art in a professional landscape. Let us pivot toward a model that captures the emotional and cultural weight of artistic expression alongside financial viability. The murmurs swelled again, diverging into discussions of practicality and risk. A woman across the table posed another challenge, but how do we ensure that our investors see the value in this transformation? They might see it as frivolous. Marcus's pulse quickened. This was the real test, defending his vision not only against the corporation's traditionalists but also against those who might question his very understanding of art's place in business. Convincing our investors means reshaping how we communicate value, he responded, steadying himself. Imagine investor reports that integrate stories behind successes, not just statistics. Imagine workshops that utilize artistic expression to resonate with employee needs and enhance productivity. Art can generate quantitative impact if the right approach is applied. He was pushing boundaries, and somewhere within that urgency, he felt a shift inside himself. He had begun to transform, no longer just a project leader fighting for funding but a visionary advocating for a paradigm shift. The recognition of his emerging voice weighed heavily on him, both exhilarating and terrifying. Just then, the door swung open, and Carolyn re-entered, eyes bright with urgency. The room's attention snapped to her, and he felt an invisible thread draw taut between them, linking their destinies in this pivotal moment. Marcus, she said, her voice laced with an unfamiliar tone. I need to share something important about the investors and our proposal. His heart raced. Could this bear the potential to either elevate or derail everything he had just fought for? A renewed wave of determination surged within him. He was no longer ready to retreat from his beliefs or let external pressures dictate their course. Let us talk, he asserted, meeting her intensity head-on as the room's atmosphere shifted once more. This was no longer just a corporate presentation, it was a defining moment in his journey as a leader, an artist, and an advocate for a new way of understanding art. Where would this new revelation lead him, and what were the stakes of their choices going forward? The intricate dance of risk versus reward stretched out before him, and he could feel the tides of change stirring. As the board leaned forward in anticipation, Marcus realized with sharp clarity that the path ahead would demand more than just courage. It would require him to confront not just the corporate forces at play but also the vulnerabilities that lay within his own heart. The meeting room buzzed with tension, the air thick with possibility and fear. As Carolyn turned to address the board, Marcus felt the weight of his voice lingering in the air. He had laid out a vision, but now it was time to solidify the transformative journey he'd embarked on during these past months. Marcus, Carolyn began, her tone shifting again as she locked eyes with him. We've faced some challenges, but something surprising came out of my recent conversations with the investors. They visited the community this past week, witnessed art classes in action, and saw how those kids interacted with creativity. They want to invest. A spark ignited within him, igniting not just relief but a profound realization. It was not just about securing funds but also about genuine transformation. Investing is crucial, but we have to ensure it aligns with our mission, he said, finding his stride. Let's create programs that empower kids like Emma to express themselves freely while collecting the data needed to prove the impact. The board members exchanged glances, some nodding while others pulled back into skepticism. He sensed they were weighing risk against ambition, but he felt an unwavering conviction swell in his chest. We can become pioneers in integrating artistic expression with measurable outcomes. But it starts here: embracing creativity while ensuring a sustainable business model. Their expressions began to shift, their curiosity peaked. As conversations bounced around the room, he focused on articulating a future where art thrived alongside business, a realm where students could explore their potential without sacrificing their integrity. "I've watched these children, their eyes lighting up at the canvas," he expressed passionately. "Every stroke is a story of boldness and originality, a potent reminder of what we often lose sight of in the corporate world. If we don't champion that, we fail them and ourselves. Art should be a bridge leading us to connection and understanding that transcends mere profit." The discussion deepened, and he felt a surge of empowerment. Opportunities emerged, filled with the promise of empowering young artists to showcase their work, spurning creativity over conformity. The energy began to shift. The board was awakening, not only to the profit potential but to the broader implications of their work. "With funding, we can create a platform for exhibitions and mentorships," he pressed. "But we need to honor the raw, unfiltered expression. Let us implement community involvement, utilize local artists, and welcome every viewpoint. It's time to measure emotional impact alongside business success." He finished, his breath locked in anticipation as the board members engaged thoughtfully in discussion. Awash in adrenaline, Marcus felt the swift current of change coursing through him. He was no longer the corporate figure defined by profits, nor merely the mentor fighting for Emma's creativity. He had evolved into an advocate balancing vision with realism, a challenging yet exhilarating precipice. Carolyn spoke up, "You've ignited something in this room, Marcus. We need another meeting to flesh out your approach, but I see merit in it. Let's define how we present this to the investors and secure their backing in a way that emphasizes both growth and creativity." The room buzzed with energy, and he savored the moment, knowing this work transcended any one presentation. This was about igniting a ripple effect, connecting with voices that echoed far beyond the glass walls of the gallery. Walking out of that room, he felt accomplished, but unlike his past corporate victories, this wasn't just about personal accolades or market trends. This was a new definition of success, one imbued with artistic authenticity, personal fulfillment, and emotional resonance. As he stepped outside into the cool air, a world once marred by pressure and conformity had transformed into a landscape of vibrant possibilities. The sky seemed brighter, reflecting the changes unfolding within him. He thought of Emma, her laughter, and the dreams they were beginning to sculpt not only into art but into a legacy, all because he decided to face the unknown. From that day forward, Marcus embraced collaboration with open arms. Together with Emma and the other students, he would cultivate a culture that celebrated creativity, forging a path where both art and commerce could coexist harmoniously. He was ready to redefine what success meant, ensuring it valued the voice behind each brushstroke and every emotional contribution. With renewed conviction, he stepped toward home, feeling a deep sense of pride stirring in him. Today marked not just a victory in a business sense but a profound awakening of purpose. He could be a beacon for Emma's generation and, in doing so, he would continue to uplift himself. You need to subscribe now to our channel to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this enlightening conclusion. Comment below your reactions and theories about the ending to join the discussion. Your engagement fuels our journey.